Hey, what's up, guys? This is John of Superdeformed Gamescast, and with me I have Brandon and Doc. And for those of you who don't know, while we're broadcasting on a Thursday morning at 9 p.m. or 9 a.m., which is highly unusual for us, we have a very cool interview today with Tommaso from Housemarque Studios.
Hey
Housemarque,
guys.
hey, what's going on, man? And dude, we are absolutely thrilled to have you here. This is extremely cool. Thank you for agreeing to come on with us.
Thank you, thank you. I hope to live up to your expectations.
Well, and, you know, if you're half as cool as the games that you put out, then I don't think we have anything to worry about.
I'll try.
So, Tommaso, real quick, could you and I just want to kind of jump right into it. Really, what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about Alienation, and I would like to ask a few questions about kind of Housemarque's history, like the kind of inspiration and thought that went into games like Resogun and Dead Nation, and maybe talk a little bit about the future of Alienation without getting too in depth. And then we got some really good questions from the audience already that I wanted to throw at you as well.
Right.
And Doc and Brandon are going to jump in as well. So really, what I guess. Tell us a little bit about your role within Housemarque, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. What I do there, my official title is community manager. Actually, I do a bit more than that. I've been fighting lately to get an upgrade to the title, but it works like this in many gaming company. I mean, even if you go probably in Valve, everybody has a really weird title that doesn't really reflect what they do. We are a small company. I think we are around 54, 55 at the moment. It keeps changing a bit, so I'm not completely sure. But you need to be, how to say, maybe multi-talented, so do more than one thing. So I take care mostly of interacting with the fans on Twitter, on Facebook, on the forums. I usually try to filter out the feedback we receive so that the team is not distracted, is not overwhelmed, because if they had to go through all the messages we get, basically they wouldn't do any work. And
Done. Yeah.
I try to pick the stuff that they should really look at, and when they have time, like we have an internal chat system, we use Slack. I don't know if you're familiar with it. So everything that they need to focus their attention on, it's usually posted there, and they see it. Sometimes they intervene directly, mostly on the forum, but we try to keep that to a minimum because it can be very distracting, and sometimes, for example, if the feedback for some reason is not good, it can be also a bit maybe depressing for them. So I try to shield them from not from bad feedback. They're aware that some people like the game, some people don't like it, but the less they read the bad stuff, because people can be pretty nasty on the internet.
Oh, yes.
The less they read about it, the better is the work they can do. So yeah, I am the one who is reading all that stuff, and that's why probably inside of me there is this ball of rage and darkness. One day will come out. Yeah.
that has to be exhausting.
Sometimes it's a bit exhausting, yeah.
You know, well, and like how do people react? Because, like you said, I mean, as a developer, you know, some people love your games, some people don't love games, and that's fine. But it's always that vocal minority who don't love your games that are so much louder than the rest. And like have you? Do you guys have a way you just filter that out? I mean, do you block people on Twitter? Like how do you get past some of that negativity?
Usually not. Like everybody's entitled to their opinion, especially if they bought the game. I mean, like if you bought it and you don't like it, fine. I mean, I can try to tell you why it's good, but if you don't like it, you don't like it, right? The only thing that we require when we discuss with fans is that they behave like adults, and we can have a constructive conversation. So if they have suggestion on how to make something better, we're always listening. If they start to offend or call you out personally, that kind of stuff, it's pretty toxic, like for the morale. So I try to avoid that, and usually we don't block anybody. Today I blocked somebody because it was becoming hard to handle, and so yeah. But usually we don't do that.
I usually don't do that either. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all feedback is good feedback as long as it it is expressed in an educated manner, and we are really talking with adults, because sometimes you have the feeling that you're more in a kindergarten. You can see it in the forum, for example. Some people call each other out, like, "Oh, you've been cheating to get the score," and I always try to say, guys, you either behave like normal people, or you just get out of here, because like I want to have a conversation that is quality conversation. We had cases in the past where arguments, like kind of childish arguments, made some good fans leave, and we don't want that at all. We want to keep the good ones and maybe get rid of the ones that cannot really behave like adults. But yeah, it's a process. It's difficult to handle, but I don't want to to spend too much time on the
That's fine.
difficulties
That's
of
fine.
my job. Like I'm sure every community manager has the same issues, and companies that have bigger communities than ours probably have even better stories. I cannot imagine how it works for people like Naughty Dog when they have Uncharted 4. They have like millions of people writing them
Poor
stuff.
Arnie.
Sorry?
I said poor Arnie.
Yeah, I guess.
He's the director of communications.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they must have some. They must be more than one, because I cannot imagine them handling all that feedback about alone. So it's a tough job, but like it's how it is to have a dialogue on the internet. It can be very interesting. It can be quite exhausting, and like my personal motto is that nobody ever won an argument on the internet.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So
Yeah.
the best you can do, is that try to express your opinions in a considerate manner, I think.
That's a good point.
So I know that Doc, you actually had a question that you wanted to ask. I wanted to pass the mic over to you real quick. I can't talk to. I haven't had enough coffee this morning, so.
So are you guys owned by Sony, or do you just have an arrangement with them?
No, we are independent. That's why we still like to use the term indie when we speak about our stuff. Like the company is owned by 3 guys. So 2 of them are actually they are the ex-owners of the 2 companies that made Housemarque. Before Housemarque, there were 2 companies. One was called Terramark, and the other one was called Bloodhouse. And then they decided to make a single company, and it was called Housemarque. That's the
Housemarque is a pretty good name. Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
They're still in the company. One is our CEO, and the other one is the creative director. So it's 20 years and counting now that they are in the business, and they are actually hands-on and do stuff. They're not just sitting back and waiting to see what happens.
Okay, so following up from that, you guys tend to release stuff exclusively for the PlayStation platform. Is there any interest in bringing stuff over to other platforms? Like, I know everyone in my multiplayer clan wants your games on the PC. Is there any interest in that?
We had since Superstar Dust HD. I think our relationship with Sony has been very direct, very straight. They allowed us to do a lot of projects that without their help maybe wouldn't have been possible. Including Dead Nation, including Resogun, and now Alienation. We definitely have interest for other options. It very much depends on what our contracts say. But I wouldn't discard that we might do something on other platforms in the future. I'm not confirming anything, but it's not... Like, if we want, we can do it, in the sense that, for example, we have Outland, which was a Ubisoft project, and that came out for Xbox 360, came out for PS3, and more recently came out for Steam.
Did you say Outland?
Outland, yeah.
God, I loved Outland. Oh my God.
It's available for PC, Mac, and Linux.
You guys should bring that to PS4, man. I would love to play that again.
Well, yeah, that's something we should discuss with Ubisoft. But yeah, definitely. Well, that's something we did, and it worked on other platforms, and I cannot see why that cannot happen again in the future.
Yeah, I've noticed that Sony has published a couple of their games on the PC, like Helldivers, which is a twin-stick shooter, and Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. So I could definitely say that there are a lot of people who would definitely like to get your games on the PC for sure.
You know, like Resogun and Dead Nation and Alienation, they are Sony-owned IPs. So if they want to bring them to the PC, they totally can.
Okay.
Yeah, but you guys still have Super Stardust though.
Actually, it doesn't really depend on us. We could do the port, but they have to say, okay, we want this game on the PC because we think there's a good audience over there. Of course, like they've been using our games also as a reason for people to get a PS4. So it depends what are their internal objectives. They are aware that there is request on the PC. It very much depends on what they want to accomplish with the specific title.
Well, you know, I mean, Colin Moriarty over at Kind of Funny has said multiple times that Resogun, I mean, to this day, is one of the best games available on PS4, and it's a reason to own a PS4, and that's something I've always echoed as well. That was actually
still top 5 for me.
That was actually that was my first PS4 game. When I picked up the PS4 on launch day, I had Assassin's Creed 4 and Killzone Shadowfall, and I downloaded Resogun, and I was like, okay, well, I've got a twin stick shooter from Housemarque, so I have to play that first. I ended up getting my platinum. Actually, that was one of the hardest platinums I've had to. Oh, that was tough. That was rough. Go ahead, Brandon.
No, I had a pretty easy time with that, but I'm just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's because you're better.
Ridiculously good at those games.
Yeah, I'm no good. But I wonder.
Alienation's a tough platinum, though.
Alienation is amazing, and that is a tough platinum actually. And that's kind of what I wanted to jump into next. I was curious, like how long? What was the turnaround time on Alienation? Like when did you guys come up with what was the time between the initial concept and launching? Like how long were you guys working on that?
So Alienation took longer than Resogun. It's been a process that lasted several years. Resogun was about 2 years. Alienation was longer than that. The reason why it took longer, well, it is in scope. It is bigger than Resogun. It also supports things that we haven't tried before. For example, the four-player co-op, or there were systems that we haven't tried before, like the loot, for example. It's something that we were that familiar with. So we had to figure out some things that maybe might be obvious for other software houses, but they were a bit less obvious for us because just simply the expertise that we have in-house. Of course, everybody here plays every kind of game, but we have expertise as gamers. When you have to implement it in a game, it's a bit different. You have to design things in a certain way. So it took us a while to reach the final design. I mean, at some point, I think we will publish a post-mortem of Alienation, and hopefully you will get to see how it looked in the beginning, and we will get to tell the whole story of how the gameplay was in the beginning. I can tell you right now that it was much slower in the beginning, and there were also some stealth elements that completely disappear from the final game because, well, in the end, it was better without. But it was supposed to be a bit different from what we obtained in the end.
I think it turned out all right.
Yeah, no, I think it turned out pretty good.
I'm not saying that it was better, but it was different. So
yeah.
Probably what we got now is what we thought was the best version of it.
I'm going to go ahead and agree with you.
Okay.
So, what actually inspired you guys to come with the loot system? Because, I having played and loved it. Like I played through Dead Nation with my wife on the couch twice, and we absolutely loved that game. It's one of my favorite games from last gen on the PS3. But when I found out that there was an actual kind of Diablo-esque loot system in Alienation, that really it surprised me, but it also kind of intrigued me. And playing it. It gives you that same hook that Diablo does. It's really kind of the impetus, or one of them that just kind of driving me forward. And I was curious, what inspired you guys to throw something like that in there? And it wasn't inspiration. I thought it was an excellent choice. But I was wondering, what was the causality behind that?
Well, I think we wanted to do something a bit different from a Dead Nation, and while still keeping some elements, because Dead Nation is one of our most successful titles. So we decided to use it as a foundation for Alienation. But at some point, we started to wonder, okay, what makes this different? And well, in-house we have like very big fans of Destiny, for example,
Okay.
and very big fans of Diablo. And I mean, we have no problem admitting that those were like two big influences. And we also wanted to see if we could appeal to a slightly different audience while still keeping the old one in the loop. So the idea was that this title could appeal both to the fans of Dead Nation and maybe to somebody who didn't play Dead Nation but would be interested in a game that has loot, for example.
I don't know if you've seen this, but there are multiple people, including people on this podcast, who have said in the past that Alienation is better than Destiny. So you guys have done an excellent job on that.
Thanks. I will try to report it to the team. Probably they will see the broadcast at some point.
And you know, so like, without getting too heavy into what, because I know you guys have a lot cooking, and I don't want to spoil anything coming up. But can you talk a little bit about maybe plans for maybe named exotic weapons or unique weapons or legendary weapons, however you want to call them, in Alienation, and your plans for like maybe increased levels of difficulty or more maps or stuff like that?
Yeah, so especially through our forum, we're getting a lot of feedback, and we're trying to act on the most important stuff. We have to prioritize because we are getting so much that I think we would need a team that is 10 times bigger to make everybody happy. Plus, when you read something on a forum, even a really detailed post that has actually good arguments and things like that, you still have to keep in mind that that's one person. And it is a person that felt the need to communicate something, so maybe we should take the advice, but still, like, the need of the super fans are not necessarily the need of the 99% of the people playing the game.
That's a good way to look at it.
Sure.
And of course, like, you tend to make the super fans happy because they are the ones writing to you and the ones that request features and things like that. But I think with Resogun we learned that sometimes when you're catering only to the top 1% of your user base, even though they're the most passionate about your game, you're actually leaving out all the others. And even just, if I have to say, business-wise, it doesn't make much sense, because like, for as much passion these people can have for your title, they cannot grant you to be financially sustainable, so we need to kind of balance a bit the request for super hardcore features and features that maybe I won't say the average Joe would prefer. And in this sense, I think we underestimated a bit the request for couch co-op. This, to be honest, was a decision that was taken many years ago. So it's not something that we decided in the end, oh, let's pull couch co-op. Like, the game is designed to work online.
I actually feel like it would work better online than it would. We've had this discussion amongst ourselves in the podcast. Couch co-op is great, and it worked for Dead Nation, but I feel like with the amount of chaos on screen in Alienation and the way the game is designed, I feel like couch co-op isn't something I'm yammering for, and I can't tell you. I'm glad you addressed it, because I can't tell you, when I asked on Twitter, hey, does anybody have questions for Housemarque, I had like 10 people DM me like, ask them when couch co-op is coming, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna. No, it's coming. That's all you need to worry about. Like,
yeah, I want to address this. It is coming, but there are some issues that we need to solve that are not maybe obvious for the people that are listening from home or watching the broadcast. And these are, for example, I'll give you a very simple thing. Like, you said that it's very chaotic. So, for example, when you're playing with somebody on your couch, you cannot use a split screen. Yep. Because if you would divide the screen in 4, you wouldn't see the projectiles coming, for example. Or yeah. Another issue, the loot is personal now. So when you open a crate, the loot, you are the only one seeing that loot, and your friends can open the crate and see other loot. But how does it work when you're all on the same couch? Can you steal the loot from your friends? These are all things that these are design problems that we need to address. They are addressable. We can fix it. but it takes some time. How do we address the chaos on screen when you're on the same couch? Like, do we pull the camera back, or do we do something else? How does it work when you want to change a weapon and you want to go into the menu when you are in 4? So all these things need design, and the priority was given to online co-op because, to be completely honest, it is the one that people play more. If you look at the numbers for other games, the amount of people that play in couch co-op, like it is a really cool idea to have your friends over, but when you're 30, 35, maybe you have a family, you don't have friends over all the time, you know. So with the age of the players going up, the need for couch co-op kind of tends to diminish. I know that over the years it had some kind of revival, and I would be the first to admit that maybe we underestimated how much people would want that feature. So we're totally gonna do that, but it wasn't in the initial budget for the game. So we also needed to have some discussion with the publisher, like, hey, people really want this. Can we have some extra time? Can we develop this? And when we agree on this, you also need to have a budget to do it because, well, clearly we don't work for free. And
Yeah.
so you need actually to have people available that didn't move to the next project, and you need to have like actually the budget to do it, because unfortunately there's no make a couch co-op button, as many people think. Like unfortunately we have to do some changes to the game to make it work properly. So it's a process. I know that it would have been better to have it from the beginning, but we are working as fast as possible, and we want to do it right, because if you do it wrong, nobody's going to play it anyway. So.
But I mean, something that you said on Twitter really kind of hit home with me, and it's absolutely true. And you mentioned earlier about finding that balance between pleasing the really super hardcore fans and the people that you're trying to bring in, and kind of experience your games for the first time. And a lot of people on Twitter said, we're so disappointed there's no couch co-op. This is something we expected, and you guys were like, look, we never promised that. Like that's not what this is about.
Yeah, one thing you learn doing my job is that people usually don't read anything on the internet.
They don't. No, hell no.
Like, I have to say that, to be honest, there's been some little miscommunication there, because, for example, on some PSN stores, I think not all of them, but Alienation at the moment is categorized under couch co-op.
No shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but the thing is that we do not have control on the store at all. So it's someone else that put it there, and like we are now in this very weird spot where couch co-op is coming next month, so it will get couch co-op. So what do we do now? Do we remove it from there, and then maybe it doesn't go there anymore, because it's always kind of a bureaucratic issue, like to get stuff in place in the store, or we leave it there and we just wait for the patch to come out. So that was an issue, but in the description of the game, there's no mention of a local co-op. It is worded in a way that might be a bit unclear, and I apologize for that. There's many people involved in the process, and I think we could have done a better job there. So if people bought the game thinking it would have couch co-op, I'm really sorry. We're trying to fix it.
It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the game is good afterwards.
I'm sure, like, we got so many messages of people saying, hey, I wanted to play with my wife, I want to play with my kids, I cannot, you're stealing our money. It's like, guys, we're really sorry. We don't have control on the store. We would change the thing immediately if we could, but we cannot, so it's complicated.
The level of patience required to deal with
Yeah, no, plus
this.
you have to imagine for the way how the PSN works at the moment is that Europe has a different PSN store for each country, and the US is much easier because there's only one. So we have to deal with all the regional things, and it's extremely complicated to get things done fast. But everybody's doing the best they can, and that's all I can say.
No, I think you guys are doing a great job. And Alienation is just a fucking stellar game.
That said, I have to say that we, like, on our side, we never ever promised this local co-op. So if people don't inform themselves before buying something, I can only apologize up to a certain point. Once I remember, I was working in a theater, and many years before coming to Finland, and I remember a couple went to see this Dogville movie. I don't know if you know the movie, but it's this movie where basically there's no scenography. Everything is on a theater stage, and there are only the actors basically. There's nothing in the background, right?
And there,
So,
wow, yeah, that sounds odd.
yeah, it's a Lars von Trier movie. It's very weird. And so they came out storming from the projection room, and they said, we want our money back. We didn't think that this was the movie we were going to see. So clearly they had no clue what they were going to see, because every trailer would have kind of clarified that fact that it wasn't just a normal movie. And sometimes I have the same feel, like this image comes to my mind when I hear people complaining, like, you didn't read the description of what you were buying, did you? So, I mean, like, there are mistakes on our parts, but sometimes I think people exaggerate a bit in the reaction they have.
Yeah, you got to do your due diligence.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's also, you know what, Tommaso, I think it's also that people have a sense of entitlement too. You know, you can't rule that out. Like you know, I mean, there are fans like this of any dev or any genre who say, well, this is the way it's been in the past, so naturally this is the way it has to be now, and people need to understand that is just not always the case.
Yeah, but you know, like, this is weird for me, because Alienation is not a direct sequel to Dead Nation, so assuming that it would have the same features is kind of weird for me. Like,
Yeah.
it is true that we say spiritual successor, but it doesn't mean that it's exactly the same game. So assuming that some features would be there without even bothering to check, it's just maybe not how I'm used to buy things.
I think it might be in part that people think of Dead Nation as a co-op game. So,
Yes,
like, in their head,
yes.
that is when somebody says spiritual successor, they're thinking, oh, well, the first one was co-op. That is like all they think of it as. I mean,
Yeah,
kind of like,
I'm sure, like, we did some mistakes in communicating that. I don't want to deny it, and local co-op was a big element for Dead Nation. So we thought that in the time in between, the thing would have died down a bit, but turns out that it didn't. So yeah, we're fixing it, and hopefully everybody will be happy after the next patch.
Well, I actually am able to play with my wife on the couch because she sits on the couch upstairs on her PS4, and I sit on the couch downstairs on my PS4. And Alienation was good enough to where we were like, yeah, we're double dipping on this.
Okay, from next month you will have the chance to spend more time together on the same couch, hopefully.
Well, you know, like, here's the thing, and I don't want to go too much further down the couch co-op rabbit hole. There's a few other questions I want to. We got some questions, but I'll kind of end with this. I think it works better. Like Alienation, or not Alienation, Dead Nation worked great as a couch co-op game, but just like you said, I mean, with the progressive loot system and kind of just the way the game is set up, I feel like it's better suited to online gameplay, and that's just me. You know, that's so. I doubt couch co-op for Alienation is something that my wife or I would actually ever use. And you know, like you said, it's a nice thing to have, but I don't. It's not something that I'm hold my breath for or anything. I think the game itself is great just the way it is. And I also wanted to commend you guys on the class system that you're using in Alienation. And you know, it very similar to Destiny. Like every single class feels different. I personally, I'm playing as a tank. I don't know what Brandon and Doc are playing as.
I did tank mostly.
Yeah. Okay, I remember. Doc, what do you play as?
medic.
Okay, right. I love the only thing about the tank is I didn't pick up on the fact that his range was limited, and so like had I thought about that, I would probably go back and pick I'd probably go with the medic actually, because I really like that Xeno rifle.
The Saboteur for that.
Actually, it's funny because that change came, I think, quite late in the game. I remember, because I've been playing so many versions of the game that sometimes now when people ask me questions, I don't remember which one is the right retail version of the rule. At some point, the tank had like the range more or less like the others, but the limited range was given because he's strong in other aspects. So it was a way to make you go a bit closer to the enemies and things like that.
And I actually I completely understand that. I mean, as you know, another aspect of the game I love is the ability to kind of mod your weapons. And I thought the modding tree was really cool. And I would pick up an energy gun, like I found an orange energy gun, and I would mod the shit out of that thing. And it got to the point where I was doing like 20,000 DPS, and I was borderline overpowered. Like I was melting Xenos. And so I actually think like looking back on it, the lack of range on the tank is actually a really good way to kind of nerf his abilities without having to actually get in there and screw with his stats at all.
Well, he does, yeah, because he's got that one ability that knocks everyone down when he crashes in there. So
and that's always kind of the class I gravitate to is the full-on offense class, kind of like how I'm doing in Overwatch right now. Tommaso, I wanted to ask real quick, and I don't want to get too far into other games that you have on the horizon, because I know there's things that you just can't talk about, and things that you want to save, things that you want to reveal on your own.
E3 is in a couple weeks.
E3 is in a couple weeks, and I think we're all very excited about what you guys might be bringing to the table there. Is there anything in the future? Tommaso's going to look at his face. He's like, "Oh God, what is he going to ask?" Is there anything coming in the future that you can talk about?
That I can or cannot?
That you can.
Yeah, well, I can tell you something more about the patch that comes next month with Alienation.
Please.
Now, I don't have the changelog in front of me right now, but first of all, there's going to be this local co-op, and then that should kind of make everybody who's complaining right now a bit more happy.
Yeah, they'll find something else to complain about.
We will also introduce, some people were asking if there are more color options for the armors, and we are totally adding some ways to customize your armor, and it won't be only aesthetic in the sense that there will be some small gameplay hooks in the way you can customize your armor.
That's awesome.
And then I should check exactly what comes next month, but there are some. We're doing something to the end game to make it a bit more for the people who already played many hours, to make it a bit more interesting for those who are basically grinding the game to the ground, because I'm receiving messages of people like, "Hey, I played already 120 hours. What else can I do?" And
it's a $20 game.
My answer is just with something more to do.
Well, Brandon makes a good point. Already for a $20 game, there's so much value and content packed into the game for $20. I don't really understand what there is to complain about. And you know what? Something I forgot to mention at all, and I thought was really cool as a huge Dark Souls fan, was the invasion system. And what was your? So I know I've been dying to ask you, and I'm so glad you're here. What was Dark Souls kind of the inspiration behind that, or was it something else?
Yeah, I think the main inspiration was Dark Souls. I have to say that at the moment the invasion system has some problems, and I think we're gonna address at least the main ones. For us, it was something that we want to try. Maybe it's not the most fleshed out feature in Alienation right now. For example, one problem that people have now is that there's no matchmaking for the level, so you might get invaded by somebody very, very strong, and that's not super fun. It's something that we read a lot in the feedback. It's something that has been discussed in the team. I hope we can do something about it, because it's quite game breaking, and in the end we had to try to polish the game as much as we could in the time we were given. Every game we ever made came in very, very hot. Even with Resogun, I think 2 weeks before the launch of PS4, people were still banging on the keyboards, making the last balance changes. Yeah. And I'm always surprised everything comes out so well in the end, because if you would be the last days of a game, is just crazy.
Well, that's what Naughty Dog said that about The Last of Us. They said it was practically broken 2 weeks before they went to launch.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, because that's how games are made. People try to make changes until the very last, and sometimes you might not even have the time to test them completely. If you make a change in the drop rate of a certain weapon, and maybe you don't have your QA testers cannot play 200 hours of the game to make sure that it works, so you're just hoping that it doesn't break everything.
Nice.
Most of the time it works, but that's one of the reasons why there are day one patches, is because after it's been submitted we realize, like, shit, we made a mistake there, we better change this, otherwise when they reach this level something will be broken. So it's a process for us, and as I said, we're trying to do the best we can with the people we have. We are not perfect. Sometimes we make mistakes, and we are trying to fix as many as we can.
So, Tommaso, I had a few, and I know you've got a lot of stuff going on, and I know your time is valuable. If you don't mind, I've got a few questions from our audience I wanted to throw at you. Nothing too hard, nothing too hard. We've got one question from our friend Enrique at the Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. He asks, if you had unlimited resources, what kind of game would you make? That's a good question. And by resources, he means money.
That's a very good question. Like, we've been actually we've been having something really cool in Housemarque. I don't know if all the companies do this. We have one thing called actually we have two things. We have one thing called the Pet Project Week, and then there is like the Pet Project Week is this. We are given the chance one time a year to work on whatever game we want.
That's awesome.
For 1 week on company hours. And at the end of the week, like it works like this. At least last time it worked like that. Then we change the rules sometimes. But basically, you make a presentation of your idea, and then if more people are excited, they can join your team and help you on that project for a week. And after a week, you basically show to the others what you have accomplished. And from that, like, we might pick something that is promising and develop it further into a more fleshed out prototype. Of course, 1 week is not enough to do anything.
Sure.
But if you have an idea, you can, for example, create mood boards, or you can create like a very, very simple gameplay prototype with cubes and
that's awesome.
Spheres that move around, just to show what is your idea. Nice. And then another thing we had is a much bigger pitch where you don't have a week to develop it. There's just one date, and by that date you should pitch a game, and it can be as big as you want, and you have to pretend basically to have infinite money, because if the idea is very good, then maybe we can go to investors, for example Sony, and say, hey, look, we have this idea, the only problem is that it costs $30 million. So if they like it, then they might say, okay, this is kind of promising, make a better presentation, and then next time we can discuss some budget. And then if they like it, they can, usually how it works is that they say, okay, this is an interesting idea, here's some money to develop a real prototype. And then if the prototype is good, then they might actually go all in with the full project. But it's there's many steps there to go through, and basically projects can die at any one of them, so it's very difficult to keep them alive. But definitely we don't have a shortage of ideas. We have, like, I think from last year maybe we have 20 pitches for future games, and maybe one is going forward.
That's actually a great segue into a question we have from @Nightingale on Twitter. He wants to know what other concepts were there for Alienation before deciding on aliens and space marine types.
So what were the concepts? I think it's always been science fiction. So there's no when it comes to the setting, I think it never changed. There were like within the realm of science fiction. It was a bit different in the sense that maybe it looked slightly more close to XCOM.
Yeah, I've seen that comparison being made, actually, yeah.
Than it is now. So early videos, early gameplay prototypes had a bit of this XCOM aesthetic. We moved away from that, I think, sufficiently to not to look kind of the same stuff.
Well, and you know what struck me about Alienation is that I actually thought that the soundtrack was kind of hued very similar to XCOM, which is not a bad thing. I love XCOM, and I love this. I love kind of the futuristic soundtrack that has. But that was actually where I found the most similarity was in the sound and the way it sounded.
Yeah, that's a question for Ari, which is our composer. I'm not sure exactly what are his inspirations for the soundtrack of Alienation, so unfortunately I cannot.
Is that the same guy who did
Sorry.
Resogun? Is he the same one who did?
Yeah. He also did Dead Nation and Outland.
Resogun's soundtrack was incredible.
He's also the guy who made the jingle from Angry Birds.
No shit, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
He made that as well.
We've got a question from at Nakapuki on Twitter, Deacon, who's actually in chat. He wants us to ask you if you can re-release Alien Incident to GOG.com or Steam. He knows it's not console related, but that game was pretty awesome back in the day.
Yeah, we get asked about older games on a regular basis. Last year it was our 20th anniversary. I think there were some talks about it, but in the end it boils down to the fact that some of the games don't have a very huge commercial appeal, and I think this was discussed even with the guys at Good Old Games, and they do not actually, contrary to popular belief, they do not accept every game. So you can make a suggestion, they take a look at the game, and they say, okay, this has potential, this has not potential. Because if they know that the game will not sell, then they might not be interested. This was something we discussed some years ago. At the time they weren't interested. Maybe the situation has changed. To be honest, like we have 0 free people that would be able to do a port of those games. And if I have to be honest, like the projections for what those could sell are so limited that basically it doesn't make it worth except for this nostalgic factor.
Not worth your time, really.
I mean, like for the company it would be great, but if we have to look at the numbers, probably wouldn't make sense. Maybe I'm wrong, and I think actually Good Old Games has some mechanism where you can upvote the games that you want released there. I know there is some Housemarque list somewhere, so if people are very interested, they can go check for that. And well, if we have substantial support for these ports, then we can look into those again. But right now, I don't think it would make much sense. One game that we got
2 games being made right now.
Sorry, yeah, we have
like 2 games.
Two games in development right now. One that we are supporting, Alienation, and the one that is in the planning stage. So for a company of 54, 55 people, it's a lot of stuff.
That's not bad. I want to throw it out real quick to our folks in chat. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them. And I also wanted to throw it out to Brandon and Doc real quick. Do you guys have anything that you want to ask Tommaso?
Not specifically.
No, I've asked what I wanted to ask.
Okay. So I wanted to ask real quick. And without getting too deep into what you guys have coming in the future, because I know there's stuff you just are not ready to talk about. Will you guys be at E3 this year?
Some guys will be at E3.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Okay, that's all I'm concerned about. And you guys actually had something coming up soon. It was I can't remember the name. It's Project. God, what is that?
Yeah, we are working on something that has a code name as the Jarvis project.
The Jarvis project, that's what it is. Yeah.
That is not the real name of the game.
Yeah.
We have a name for the game. We were supposed to present it much earlier, but we are kind of postponing because with the fact that, for example, Alienation was delayed, some resources, meaning people that were supposed to move to that team got stuck into Alienation, so everything is a bit late. And one thing we learned working on recent games is that you only have one chance for a first impression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even though I think like the game is shaping up really well, it's fantastic to play. To be honest, I think it's gonna be a bigger success than Alienation, if you ask me.
Oh shit.
But the thing is that like while the gameplay is very developed at the moment, so you can play and it feels really good already, the visual part of it is still a bit behind because some of the artists were stuck in the Alienation team. So we decided that we wait. We wait until we have something that is really mind-blowing, and when people see it, they don't think it's an alpha or it's a beta. They think it's cool. So we will wait. This is a project we are developing together with Eugene Jarvis. Eugene Jarvis, which is the original creator of Defender, from which Resogun was inspired.
That's cool.
And Robotron, which has been a main inspiration for basically all our twin-stick shooters.
The original twin-stick shooter.
Hell yeah.
So we're working with the guy. We are also making a documentary about it. If you don't know about it, you can check on YouTube. We have a trailer. It's more of a teaser, actually. It's called The Name of the Game. So if you search the name of the game, Jarvis, you will find the documentary, the documentary teaser, not the documentary. The documentary is still being filmed because we are not going to release it before the game is out, because we also want to film what happens after the release, if it's going as planned or not. And I think it's going to be a very fun thing to watch because it shows everything that goes into development of a game from a human point of view. So it's not going to be boring tech stuff. It's like, hey, who are the people making the game? What are they thinking? What are the problems? Why are they smiling even though they know that everything is fucked? Or things like that. You know, I think it's going to be very cool to watch, and I think that the game is going to definitely live up to your expectations from such a collaboration.
Nice.
I'm very positive about what's coming out there.
Well, Deacon in chat says it must be pretty cool to work with a legend.
Yeah, I mean, Eugene is like, if you had the chance to meet the guy, he's so explosive in the creativity he has. Like, he comes up with some ideas that we actually have to tell him, maybe not. Because like he's just a hurricane of ideas, and sometimes he's just very, very hard to contain, let's say.
Yeah, our beloved Doc right here on the Gamescast is the same way. Yeah. Doc is very similar to that. I'm like, Doc, you got to slow down, man.
Control yourself, Doc.
Doc, relax.
Never.
I still think you're gonna see something about the game this year. Hopefully, we will finally announce the game. You will finally be able to see some video and screenshot. I don't know exactly when. It probably won't be this E3.
Okay, all right.
It's all about Matterfall, this one. I bet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and you know, I'm not gonna ask about Matterfall. I will say that I am.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, I just will say that being a huge fan of Resogun, I need my voxels, man. Yeah. I need them. So very, very much looking forward to what Matterfall could pan out to be.
I think we have a couple of new tricks in our sleeve for there, so it's not gonna be necessarily voxels. But there's definitely going to be some cool tech stuff in Matterfall as well.
Oh, I can't wait! That trailer you guys released last year was just so hype. I was not expecting that. That was really neat. Really cool. Yeah. And of course, you know, I saw it was a Housemarque game. I was like, oh shit, you know, and I was waiting for like a real follow up to Resogun. And so yeah. Oh god, I can't wait. I so badly want to talk about Matterfall, so I'm gonna change gears real quick because I know I can't talk about that. We do have one more question from chat, and then we're coming up in an hour, and then we'll wrap it up because I know your time is very valuable. Enrique in chat wants to know what was your first console and your favorite game on that console.
All right, now I'm gonna say something that hopefully doesn't get me fired, but I'm always being a Nintendo fan.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. We're all
No, I mean, like, to be honest, like, I don't understand console war at all. I just try. I understand if you can afford only one console, you want it to be the best one. But if you can, just play wherever the games are, because that's what gamers should do. And you know.
If only more people had that mentality.
Yeah, like sometimes I felt even like, you know, we had like some arguments. Actually, I didn't have, but a couple of fans were having arguments on Twitter over why Sony is better than, like, PlayStation is better than Nintendo.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, to be honest, if you don't like Nintendo as a gamer, you are probably a monster.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be here without Nintendo. We wouldn't be having any of these discussions
And
without Nintendo.
like, there's also an official Sony endorsement there because Shuei Yoshida admitted not so much time ago that he owns 2 Wii U's. So even if
Yeah.
so it's okay to like other consoles, and then I had I had an Xbox 360. I don't have a one, but I play on PC, for example. So I play on wherever the games are, really. But my first console was Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, I guess, in the US. Yeah.
No,
No,
it's in yeah, Famicom's in Japan. Super Nintendo.
All right. So yeah, so it was a Super Nintendo, and I actually won it. There was like this kind of competition where you had to draw something, and I drew it, and then they decided to award me with the Super Nintendo. From there, I started my career as a console owner. But actually, I started to play much earlier because my very first computer was Commodore 16, which I don't think many people had. After that came Commodore 64, etc. But my neighbor had Amiga. I was playing with Nintendo 8-bit to like I was going to the house of friends to play with that. So I always been playing quite a lot. Other friends had Mega Drive, and when I can, I usually buy every console available just because I want to play everywhere.
That's awesome. That's a great answer, man. And you know what? Hey, where do I get that hoodie? I got that hoodie.
Badass hoodie.
I didn't understand. Sorry.
Where do I get that hoodie at?
Oh, this one. Well, I guess you need to come here.
Oh,
These are not for sale. Yeah.
Oh
So,
God, that's such an
limited
awesome hoodie.
edition.
My dreams are shattered.
So to be honest, we've been because we have so many requests of merchandise, but it's so taxing to handle merchandise that like we don't have the personnel to pack stuff and ship it, and it wouldn't be worth the money. It comes up regularly, like, hey guys, we should outsource this, but then no one has time to make designs and things like that, so it never happens. But I really hope that at some point we will be able to sell it to the fans that want it.
So do I, because that
I was
hoodie
gonna
is
say,
amazing.
Yeah, there are services like IM8bit that they've got Ratchet and Clank stuff, they've got Guild Wars stuff, they have a bunch of stuff that's
They
all
have an
like-
amazing. They have an amazing Hyper Light Drifter special edition that went up.
Yeah,
for
they have an
pre-order today.
actually I really like their vinyl editions of the soundtrack. They look fantastic, and I think they're doing a very, very sweet job, and we might be in touch with them in the future.
Ooh, please make it so. Yeah, Brian King in chat says merchandise would be amazing, and I absolutely agree. Because I have to have that hoodie at some point. We'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and cut it off there because we're coming up in an hour, and I know your time is valuable, and I know you got stuff to do. It's what, about 5 p.m. over there, Tommaso?
I guess so. Yes.
Something like that. Yeah, I know you guys are probably trying to get home for the day. I want to, on behalf of SDGC, I want to thank you for coming on the show, man. I was not anticipating this, and it was extremely cool that you took time out of what I know is your very busy schedule to come and talk to one of the smaller podcasts like us.
I'm happy to oblige.
It speaks a lot about the willingness that you guys are able to take, or your willingness to kind of engage with the fans on a personal level, and I think that's extremely cool. It's not something, in my opinion, that you see enough of in the industry these days. So our hats off to you. And if you could help get Shuhei Yoshida on the show, that would be amazing. If you could,
Shuhei is surprisingly easy to reach. So you might just be able to contact him in unexpected ways. I won't say email addresses or anything on the podcast, but the guy is very, very approachable. Like, I didn't think it was so easy to get in touch with him.
I just want to hug him. Like, he's so damn cute. I just want to walk up and hug him. You know, like, Shuhei, I just want to. Yeah,
he's just a very nice human being, I think.
He comes off as one. He does. He really does. Okay, we'll go ahead and end it there. I want to give a quick plug to 2 things. One, Enrique, our sister podcast, the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. They go live every Tuesday at 9, so please go check them out. And we will also be broadcasting tonight with another dev, Marcel Hatam at ComRaven. He's a CryEngine guy, and he's also a former dev at BioWare. So today, you will get your Super Deformed Gamescast fix twice. And thanks again to Tommaso from Housemarque for coming on. We hope to see you again in the future, and we are very much looking forward to what you have coming,
Right.
leading up to E3 and beyond.
Yeah, just let me know. I'll come again.
And Tommaso, if you could stick around for like 10 seconds, there's a question I want to ask you when we get offline. And we'll go ahead and end it there. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in, and be sure to join us once again tonight at 9 p.m., which is our new time every Thursday.
See you tonight.
See you
Bye.
later, guys.